I'm Dennis Anderson along with Julie Zenner. Here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Groundbreaking research on the region's economy was released this week. We'll dig into the first economic indicators report and find out how it will benefit local businesses.
April is Child Abuse Prevention Month and the beginning of the First Witness I Stand With Kids campaign.
And we'll have the week's top business stories and a look back at what was making news 25 years ago in our region.
These topics and more next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks very much for watching. Julie, I'm sure most of us are happy the month of March will soon be gone, but maybe this wild weather won't be gone quite yet.
Well, I don't know if last year was any indication. We had 50 plus inches of snow in April, so the best may be yet to come.
All right, well, we'll find out. We've got some strong topics. Let's get started.
All right. Thank you, Denny, and welcome, everyone. This week marked the release of the first ever Regional Economic Indicators Report. A 15-county area of northeast Minnesota and northwest Wisconsin is included in the data. Research is being done by students and faculty at UWS, UMD, and the College of St. Scholastica. The goal is to provide key economic data and trends to help business owners in their business decisions. Joining us is Steve Burgess, the CEO of National Bank of Commerce, which is funding the research. Bob Hoffman is an economics professor at the College of St. Scholastica. And Samuel Hoffman is a St. Scholastica economic finance major and one of the students conducting research for this survey. And thanks to all of you for coming in. Really appreciate it. Steve, we had you here a few months back as you were just getting started on this, and now you've got a baseline of data to move forward. So as you look at what is gathered at this point, what's kind of the headline?
The headline is that the Twin Ports in the northern region are strong. We're coming out of the recession real well, and we got some data that points to a very bright future.
Refresh people's memory a little bit just in terms of what some of those economic indicators are that you actually are starting to track.
One of the, well, we got probably 4 or 5 that we're looking to track. One of them is employment and unemployment and job skills. The sectors of the business, sectors of the economic community that are doing well, the gaining employment versus those that are perhaps contracting a little bit. We're looking at consumer confidence, business confidence. That's most of what we're looking at. There's a lot of other data, collateral data that goes along with that.
So, Bob, it sounds like the economy is growing. Is it growing at a slower pace maybe than much of the country?
It seems like that our growth is comparable to what's happening in other parts of the country, and it seems as though the trends in employment and unemployment are comparable to what's going on. And one of the things that surprised me in looking at the results is that we've seen a decline in unemployment over the last couple of years, fairly dramatic. We started out in 2007 at about 6% unemployment in the region, and that peaked to about 9%. In 2009. Now it's come down to around 7.2, a little lower in Minnesota. But what's surprising is that the number of people employed has not yet recovered to the pre-recession levels. And what that indicates, and I think that this is what's so valuable about the information that's being gathered, is it really indicates that for the region to continue to have strong growth, we need to see a growth in overall population.
So are we seeing young people leaving this area to seek employment elsewhere?
I think there's a little of that. I think that there's also the aging of the population that's again throughout the country, you know, so we're seeing older people leaving the labor force and not being replaced at, say, the numbers. And again, from my perspective, I think what's really valuable about that is that this reinforces there's lots of local chambers that are trying to connect with high school students, community college students, to see, here are the opportunities in the region, and here are the things you could do if you wanted to stay in the region. And I know one of the reasons that Steve instituted these forums was to highlight to the local businesses the quality of students we had at our colleges, and to highlight to the students all the business opportunities there are. So I think that will become a really nice aspect of this, is to get, you know, the students, the faculty, the policymakers, and the business people all together in a room talking about things.
And it's pretty exciting to have one of the students here with us tonight. Sam, you were involved in the research itself on the piece on business confidence. Tell people, what does business confidence mean? What were you looking for?
Well, we were just trying to kind of get a gauge of how businesses were feeling in the region about their prospects for business activity, and whether that was in terms of hiring more workers or having workers stay around longer in the day, work more hours, take out more loans to sort of finance various investment decisions and things like that. And so that was kind of what we were trying to gauge with the survey that we created. And it seems like the results from that were that for businesses were, you know, optimistic and did have sort of confidence in the region, and were sort of echoing Steve and Bob, responding positively and sort of tracking along with the national data that we have in terms of expanding and having confidence in the region that they can sort of go forward with business decisions that, you know, promote growth within the region. So,
of course, information out is only as good as information in. Were businesses fairly forthcoming in participating in the survey? Sometimes companies tend to hold their data a little close to the vest because they, you know, competitive reasons. But were you finding that they were willing to participate?
yeah, I mean, we got 185 responses from our survey, and we had sent that out to 10 regional chambers of commerce, and so that was a pretty good return for that first time doing it. We did encounter some hesitancy among chambers who, again, were sort of just pulling back a little bit at the idea of having businesses fill out a survey that could sort of lead to people identifying a certain business, which a lot of people didn't want. And so that was another thing when we were creating the survey, was putting it together in a way that allowed businesses to take it without sort of having any sort of identity issue pop up where they could be identified, and where data that they didn't want other people having would come.
So Steve, how often will these surveys be taken to take a sample of the regional economy?
Good question. We've got 2 data points that we're measuring right now, and we'll be going forward every 6 months, and hopefully go for a long, long time. So we'll be having some good data.
Who will be getting this data?
The data is available to the public. We're going to have our next conference, our forum, on October 28th at 7 o'clock, and then from that point, 24 hours after the forum, it's available on nbcbanking.com. So it's about a 200-page report that you can actually pull down.
Bob, one of the questions included in the business confidence piece was factors that businesses might feel are holding them back in the region. What are some of those things that came forward that maybe the region has to work on to become more business friendly?
I think the one that struck me, and Sam could probably speak about it in more detail, that was the lack of skilled workers, or workers who had a skill match that businesses are looking for. And I think that will really help in when colleges, universities, community colleges, technical schools are looking at what programs to put into place, that to be aware that sometimes the problem isn't simply a lack of demand for workers, it's a lack of workers who have the right skill set. And again, I think that that's one of the things that I'm hoping will come out of this, is that as we look to, you know, redesign our curriculum at the college level, we can work with businesses, policymakers, to see if we can have a better match.
You bring up a good point. Our local colleges, and particularly the 2-year colleges, they are willing then to tailor-make programs more for the demand that's out there.
I think, given the challenges that all colleges are facing, you know, community colleges, 4-year schools, that they're very willing to think about how to redesign the curriculum if that can help them get students, you know, who know that there'll be jobs awaiting when they graduate.
So many conversations have taken place over the past year or two about the potential impact of the Affordable Care Act on businesses. You talked with businesses about that or addressed that in the survey. What are you hearing? Are businesses scaling back the number of hours? Are they thinking about cutting their number of workers? Or are things pretty much the status quo?
Well, yeah, we had 2 questions in the survey that addressed that, and one was more general, sort of what do you think the Affordable Care Act will have on your level of business activity, and the other 2 did get more at employment and average hours worked, and with both of them, there were a lot of kind of indifference, and they didn't think there'd be much of an impact. I mean, I think over 70% didn't expect there to be any sort of general change, and average hours worked and the amount of employment change even less. However, the one caveat that I want to point out with that is that survey was sent out in mid-November last year, and so there was a lot of confusion with the Affordable Care Act at that time, and it also was not fully implemented yet. So the next sort of go-around with the business confidence survey, which is currently going to be distributed this upcoming week, I think that's going to have more data on exactly how businesses are responding to the Affordable Care Act.
Steve, are you finding that local investors are basically positive about the local economy?
I'm seeing a lot of optimism in the marketplace, a little bit of caution. I still kind of sitting there
Watching?
wondering whether I should jump forward or not. But as far as new projects coming on the pipe, we're seeing pretty good. We're very encouraged.
I was interested in the local stock index that looked like it actually beat the S&P over the last 5 years. Indication that we have some strong companies here at work in the Northland?
Isn't that cool? I think that's super. I'm not sure that the stock index is totally representative of the marketplace here, but that would indicate that dollars invested in the companies that have a local interest here performed better than the market as a whole. And I thought that was really nice, an indication of the hardworking people that we have up here in the northern region.
So when you presented this information to the first forum, what kind of response did you get from the folks that were there? Did you get a good turnout, and what did they think about it?
Yes, we had about 270, 280 people there. The responses that I've got back so far have been basically verbal. We haven't got a lot of the written surveys back, but it's been absolutely amazing. Some of the things that they really liked about the survey, or about the forum, was the fact that we had students doing the research and presenting, and the comments about how well the students did was fantastic.
Wonderful.
People felt they could use this information in their businesses, and the collaboration between the universities and the business people was outstanding too. People stuck around for quite a while.
Sam, as we mentioned, you are a college student here in town. What are you hearing from others your age, other college students, saying about this region? Would they like to stay here, or are many of them going to go back from where they came?
Yeah, well, there's definitely people in both camps that I've talked to, but
Sure.
I have talked to a lot of people who came here with the intention of just coming here for college and then going on to places. And there have been a lot of people who, not growing up in Duluth and coming here, sort of just fell in love with the area and what it had to offer in terms of skiing or hiking or some of those outdoor activities that the area offers. But there are people who still are planning on getting away. I mean, don't like some of the climate issues that Duluth presents and everything. So, but it has
Hard
been,
to believe.
but it has been more sort of people sticking with the region, really sort of liking it and finding sort of a niche, I think, with what it has to offer.
Yeah.
Well, really exciting research project that you're doing, and I imagine that as it goes on, it's only going to get more valuable as more information and the trends actually start presenting themselves. So good luck and good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
Truckloads of emergency food for hungry deer continue to move into northern Minnesota today. Consistent cold and deep snows have prompted wildlife managers to step up their largest distribution of food in 20 years.
Concern is what happens now for the next month. If we get a lot of snow and continued cold, then we could start to run into some problems. Yeah, when you come in, we'll put that right on the form. We're trying to keep track.
Within hours, man and machine unloaded the life-saving cargo of pellets. Soon, dozens of sportsmen and other concerned volunteers loaded up.
Our phones have been ringing literally steadily for the last 3-4 days, and so there's constant accumulation of new people calling in that want to feed deer, and we're to the point now where we just have to put everybody on a waiting list who calls. We've got more than enough people to handle all the food that we're going to be able to get for the next couple weeks.
DNR officials hope to feed at least 15% of the herd during the next 4 to 6 weeks, but volunteers buying their own feed from area food stores could extend those efforts to as much as 1/3 to 1/2 of the deer population.
April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and the First Witness Child Advocacy Center in Duluth is taking a lead role in educating the public about the problem. In St. Louis County last year, County Child Protection responded to more than 1,300 cases of child abuse. Each day in April, First Witness will engage the community in prevention tips and support of its I Stand With Kids campaign. Joining us is Beth Olson. Beth is the Executive Director of First Witness. Thanks for being here, Beth. Child abuse can certainly come and does come in many different forms. What are some of the major issues locally here, Beth?
Well, I think the issues of child abuse here really are the same as they are around the rest of the nation. So at First Witness, largely the kids that we see, they are reporting sexual abuse and major physical abuse, but there's also, incidences of neglect and things like that that the county responds to regularly.
What age group do you generally use or have people coming into your organization for some help?
Sure. In our at First Witness, we provide safe interviews for children who are reporting abuse. And we interview kids, usually 12 and under, sometimes adolescents, if they need kind of a more structured environment or a little bit more of kid gloves, so to speak. Sure. But our average age is 6 of the kids that we interview, and the youngest age is 3. So I mean, obviously you can't interview kids if they can't talk or can't communicate clearly. Right. So,
do you find that children sometimes tend to protect the abusers, especially if it's a parent or a caregiver in their life?
Absolutely. Usually the abuser is someone that child loves and trusts, and they have a relationship with them that extends beyond the abuse. So that person isn't only abusing them, they're also the person that is taking care of them, and they have other positive aspects of their relationship with them. So
that must make your work very, very challenging. Just in terms of how do you deal with those relationships?
It does in terms of, I think, moving forward for that child, and that family, and oftentimes whoever that caregiver is that's non-offending, that's not been hurting the child, and they're kind of moving forward to restructure their family with the child. They have a lot to face, and they lose a lot of people. They lose family members, and they lose friends, and it divides up a lot their community.
Beth, what are some warning signs people should watch for?
One thing I always just say to parents and to other adults is just if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. And so it's worth checking out. It's worth asking a few questions. We all get that gut feeling that something's going on, and oftentimes we choose to kind of say, oh, maybe that's probably nothing, it's just me. And we need to always just check those things out. And one thing we can see that adults will do is they will spend time with children that's kind of unusual. They'll isolate them, get them alone, have secrets with them, have special time with them. That just doesn't quite feel right. It doesn't fit into the natural course of the day. Yeah.
So what should somebody do then if they see a relationship that's a little bit odd developing, or if they just have that gut feeling that something's not right? Is there a process that you would recommend that they go through? Because people don't want to make allegations, unless they're right about them.
Yeah, and if you just have a feeling, no one's going to do anything with those allegations anyway. So the most important thing I think to do is just to develop a relationship with children where they can feel comfortable communicating with you about what's happening and helping to give them language about what could be happening to them. So we talk to parents and other adults all the time about talking to children about safe and unsafe touches, and kind of having some rules around their body, and identifying people that they can talk to should something happen.
So are these some of the prevention tips then that you'll be giving out over the next month?
Yes, we'll be giving out, we'll have a tip of the day that we'll be disseminating through our Facebook.
Can you give us a couple of examples?
Sure, I can. So one thing is we really want kids to know that their body belongs to them, and so we tell parents that kids get to decide when they get a hug and a kiss. And so when grandma wants to give them a hug and they say no way, that we don't say you have to give grandma a hug. We say they get to decide, and grandma will get over it. So
I don't know if my kid's grandma would get over it.
Well, it's interesting when you try to implement that. It is the backlash, but that's really the message is we really need to let kids know that their body belongs to them, and if we don't tell them that it does, then they're going to do what anyone tells them to.
And you have the Safe and Strong curriculum in the schools to kind of get those messages out to kids. How effective is that, do you think?
Well, we've actually been evaluating our program over the last 3 years. We implemented it in full capacity 3 years ago. And what we've learned is that one of the most important messages that kids need to hear is they need to know that it's not their fault if an adult touches them in the way that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And so through going through scenarios with kids, we've identified that pretty much all kids think it's the kid's fault right off the bat. And even if they say, well, maybe it wasn't their fault when they got touched the first time, if they didn't tell anyone, now it's their fault. Or if, if they had to participate in it, like it was somebody who was close to them and they went back to go visit that person, like it was their uncle or something, then they say, oh, see, now it was their fault because they went back to visit them. And so we really work really strongly on those messages, and what we found is that when we work on those messages really strongly, that we've gone back in the classrooms 4 or 5 months later, and they're able to identify that, and they're able to now say, no, I know it's not the child's fault. And so that's a really big message in terms of kids feeling comfortable to tell, and also just whether they tell or not, just to know, just to not take that on, that it's your fault, really is a big deal. I
would assume doctors and nurses are trained to some extent as to what to look for. Are they trained locally, or are they trained in medical school today?
They don't really get any training in medical school. That's kind of surprising, right?
So does your center then train doctors?
We
or
do.
Other medical people?
We do. We have a local specialist in town, Dr. Burgess, that works with us on our multidisciplinary team, and she provides a lot of guidance to doctors. We also have the sexual assault nurse examiner program, and those nurses are really active and they serve on our team. And so we do lots of community education. So we've been out into doctors' offices and working with different people to let them know what resources are available here. Yeah.
And the I Stand With Kids campaign, a way to kind of bring this up into the community and make it very visible. Talk about the event that you're having with the cutouts and how people can participate.
Sure. Okay. Our I Stand With Kids campaign is actually our month-long campaign, and the purpose of the campaign is it's very child abuse can be an issue that's kind of icky. People don't want to talk about it. It's someone else's problem, not mine. And this is a way of engaging the community and starting to have a conversation about it. So in a positive way, that you can stand with kids. There's things you can do. So the I Stand With Kids campaign is people can sponsor a little blue kind of cutout of kids that then we line up on the lake walk on May 5th. We'll be down there from 11 to 6. And if you sponsor it, basically what happens is your name gets on the cutout, so everyone can see as they're walking along the lake walk, can see which businesses and community groups and individuals stood with kids. And you sponsor one for a small fee. We have $20 for individuals, $40 for groups, and $50 for businesses.
Okay.
And how is the money used then?
We use all of that money goes into our programming, so it helps to support all of our prevention and efforts throughout the year.
All right. Yeah. Beth Olson, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
If you have a comment about something you've seen on Almanac North, call or send us an email. Last week, we talked about proposed pipeline projects with the representative of Enbridge Energy. The controversial topic elicited several comments, but 2 we received by email stood out.
Time now for the week's business news from Business North. On Monday, Cirrus Aircraft announced a successful first flight for its Vision SF-50 personal jet. The jet is the newest airplane in Cirrus's line of personal aircraft in the development stage for the past decade. The company says it has more than 500 pre-orders for the jet, the first of which will deliver in late 2015. Monday's test flight was part of a series of evaluations required to meet Federal Aviation Administration certification standards. The Vision SF-50 is a 7-seat aircraft which will carry a list price tag of $1.96 million.
Duluth-based Maurice's announced it has opened its 900th store, which is located in Fresno, California. The company plans to open another 60 new stores and will operate more than 925 stores in 46 states and Canada by the end of its fiscal year coming up in July. The company's long-term goal is to reach more than 1,200 stores domestically and 100 stores in Canada. During the past 5 years, Maurice's has opened more than 250 stores and has seen 65% sales growth.
The proposed hospitality project on Pier B near Bayfront Festival Park is moving forward, but has been redesigned, developers told the Duluth Economic Development Authority Wednesday. Developer Sandy Hoff said it's still very difficult to obtain bank financing for such projects. The revised plan calls for a 4-story, 140-room hotel on the 7-acre site located just west of Bayfront Festival Park. During a Chamber of Commerce presentation last year, the hotel building was planned to include 8 levels, but due to a zoning change, the height was reduced. For more on these and other business stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Now, if you have a comment about something on the show, call now. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to almanacnorth@wdsc.org. And don't forget to visit the WDSC website for the latest on your favorite PBS programs, schedule updates, news, and special events at the station. And Julie, I'm looking forward to a somewhat warmer weekend coming up, but I think it's going to be short-lived.
I think so. Word is winter returns on Monday.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid
just
of.
in time for the work week.
There you go. All right. For Julie and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.